Hey, what is up, beautiful recruiters, headhunters, search firm owners, staffing professionals, and all the rest? This is Headhunters Live, episode number 28. We are back after a 2-week hiatus, and I'm here with my brothers from other mothers. We have Mr. Chris Wessel right over here,
Howdy. Here I am.
here.
Get your
It's,
finger
I'm,
out of
I'm
my ear.
opposite. It's messing me up. Right, the guy with the good hair right there, Chris Wessel, best looking man in the business.
Oh.
And over here, we have the guy with no hair.
The most trimmed hair in the business. The most trimmed guy in the business.
Lovovitz. And today, and guys, thank you for being here for the show. We spent the last 2 weeks on a hiatus. We're really glad to be back. Today, we have a great guest on. His name is Patrick Spielmann. He's an email deliverability expert. We're going to bring him on in a few minutes. But before we do so, I want to make sure that if you guys are watching this live, make sure you comment live because we want to see who can hear us and who's watching us. If you're watching the replay, comment replay down below. We want to see who's watching us and who's listening to us. And if you like the show, like it, love it, and share it. Because if everybody watching the show share the show, it would be huge overnight, right? So it's up to you guys. With that said, a little funny story. We had a great conversation in the green room prior to the show. Neil, Patrick, our guest, and Chris and I, and Jaja, who's my executive assistant, she is in the green room kind of handling all the technical issues. And
Mortified.
Our locker room talk was so dirty. She texts me, she says, very educational topic, fellas. So
yeah,
sorry,
it's
Jaja.
not ready for prime time.
No, but if you'd like to be part of the next one, our OnlyFans link is below. Okay.
Yes, and don't forget our Grindr link as well. It's Neil's profile.
Anyway,
I'd
like to forget it actually.
But that said, and a couple of interesting things as well. Neil and I are gonna be hanging out. So for the folks who don't know, Neil and I have been doing shows together for like 3-4 years. 150 plus shows. We still have yet to actually meet in person, face to face. He's in New York. Amazing. I'm in Florida. We're like star-crossed lovers. And now, tomorrow night, we're going to be hitting the town, eating some dinner and drinking a couple beers and talking business. And looking forward to it, Neil. It's going to be awesome.
David,
awesome.
Honestly, I don't. It's bizarre because 150 shows. David and I, like, we love each other. We're like so close. We tell each other that. Chris, don't be jealous. I love you, Chris, but it's
okay. We've embraced Neil. I feel like I'm a part of you a little bit.
We met, and David and I to not have met is bizarre. And I told him there's not going to be any lovemaking, and I told him something that's also not ready for prime time, I guess.
No lovemaking. It'll be something different, something much more raw, right?
Oh God. But I can't wait. I'm all joking aside. It's like we'll take pictures, we'll post it on there. But I can't wait to meet my brother from another mother, and so that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic time, and it's always interesting seeing somebody, seeing how tall they are in real life versus how you envision them. But
Neil is taller than you would think.
Neil's taller than I think. Oh,
he's taller than you think. Yeah. Yeah, I saw him. I turned around the bar and I was looking him dead in the eye, and I'm like, "Oh my God, you're as tall as I am. This is crazy."
No, I'm 5'11". You're like 6'2", right? You had your platform shoes on, so that's probably. I always do. My boots,
I'm about 7 foot. In my dreams. But that said, before we bring Patrick on, though, I do want to mention a few of our amazing sponsors. Us. But with that said, let's first talk about Neil's company, Back Office Staffing Solutions, more affectionately known as BOSS. Now, if you want to be a BOSS recruiter or a BOSS search firm or staffing company this year and get away from the hamster wheel of make a placement 1 month and no placement the next month, and make a placement next month and no placement the next month. If you want recurring revenue, contracting and staff augmentation is the way to go. But believe me, I've been there and I know that it has a lot of teeth. You have to get a lot of insurance. You got to figure out payroll, all the paperwork. It's a pain in the butt. So Back Office Staffing Solutions, BOSS will handle it all for you. They're one of the best companies in the biz, probably the best company in the biz. And I can't say a lot about it, but when they released their app, Imagine having a branded app for your contractors and for your clients with your logo, your colors on it. It's amazing. Anyway, I'll belabor the point.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. In a couple of weeks, it's imminent. The app is coming out. I can't wait to share it. Yeah.
And it's been in development now for a while now, like well over
3 years.
Last year.
3 years and over $1 million. 3 years and over $1 million spent on it. About $1.5 million spent on it. So
as someone who for 10 years owned a firm that did a lot of temp, and we used a factoring company, and we had 50, 60, 70 people billing every week, and there was a lot to deal with there. I use Neil as well in a variety of ways, but I do use his company to payroll, and I have to say they make it very clean and simple. So it's a lot simpler than when I used to try to carry temps or contractors on my own payroll. So definitely check it out.
Yeah. And let me say something about David while we're at it, since we're plugging each other. If you want to know how to do everything in there, and David, will show you, a lot of his programs. David does a show to let you see what he does, but he makes his money and his living not recruiting anymore, but on his wonderful program. So David, you always talk about your programs more. Your sales and marketing system is a no-brainer, step by step, and it talks about everything. It's so intricate. There's nothing like it out there. Buy his stuff. David, what do you got? This is your link, right?
Yeah. I'll make this short and sweet. In essence, getting clients nowadays is extremely hard. It's more difficult than ever. And look, at the end of the day, you guys are recruiters. You're not you're salespeople, but you're recruiters. That's what you're good at. What you're probably not good at is actually getting clients. It's really difficult, especially now. There's all the white noise, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry recruiter known to man reaching out to the clients that you want to work with. So if you want a complete done-for-you solution, go to thedigitalheadhunter.com/build. We do a complete build out of your sales and marketing system in 30 days with a 90-day ROI guarantee. And now, if you don't have the big bucks, because it's not a cheap solution. If you don't have the big bucks and you want to just bone up on your skills, next week, we're starting a 3-day sales bootcamp starting April 10th. You can go to thedigitalheadhunter.com/bootcamp. Over 3 days, it's super intensive. I teach you cold calling, I teach you email prospecting, I teach you demand generation. We teach about how to get retainers, teach about how to run sales calls. It's a complete program. 3 days. All the sessions are recorded, so if you can't make it, no worries. You got the recordings for a lifetime. All right, so thedigitalheadhunter.com.
All right, David, I want to send me the link for all that stuff. I'm doing an email campaign out to all my people, and I want to add your link to it so that they know about it, because they're that good. All right, so please send me your stuff, and I'm going to be getting it out. I'll get it out by tomorrow with you. How's that?
Perfect. Yeah, that bootcamp, $200, and you get the whole thing. Wow. So I appreciate it, Neil. It's a hell of a deal. And then lastly, let's talk about Chris Wessel before we bring Patrick on. For me, I think one of the big things I tell clients all the time, if you really want to leverage yourself, get a VA. Before you even bring on a recruiter or anything like that, get a VA to handle all the low value tasks. I shouldn't say low value because they're still high value, but all the repetitive tasks that keep you from doing what you do best, which is recruit, and close deals, and build more money. Hiring VAs has been one of the biggest things I've ever done for my own productivity in my own business. And but the problem is when you hire a VA, they don't know how to source. They don't know how to work with a recruiter. So Chris Wessel actually helps you with this. Go to chriswessel.com, schedule a call with him. He'll walk through the entire system, lay out a roadmap for how you can use a VA. And if you don't use his service, you'll at least walk away with some actionable strategies and how you can incorporate a VA into your practice. Anything you want to add to that, Chris? I think I covered it pretty well.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, like at the end of the day, guys, the majority of my time, the way I make a living is recruiting. But I have been using VAs for several years now. I vertically integrated that service a couple of years back and started offering that as well. And basically, I found through my own trials and mistakes and missteps of trying to find the right VAs and trying to understand how to manage them well, that I am able to help recruiters get set up with a VA to get the right start so that you get the most out of that investment, because you can't just pick one and then say, hey, here's a job description, go find me people. It just doesn't happen magically. But we can help you get set up right. And like I said, like David said, if we have a quick chat and it ends up that you don't want to go that route, I can also make other suggestions because there's a lot of ways you can approach it depending on what you need in a VA. There's different angles to attack it from.
And you get beautiful blue eyes, right? You get his gorgeous blue eyes gazing at you behind the video, right?
That's there is that too.
So let's bring on Patrick. We've been talking long enough about our stuff because you guys are not here to hear commercials. You guys are here to watch the email delivery expert himself. That is Patrick Spielmann. We're going to bring him on and we'll be right back.
Good one.
Hey, what's
should have had one of those things that said like a break, like they hang in like a restaurant or something with the clock, like back at this time on lunch or whatever.
I should have gotten that at Amazon. Maybe they could have shipped it.
Nice.
So probably. Patrick Spielmann, let's talk about this fella. So how did I meet Patrick Spielmann, or as we like to call him, the Spiel? I'm just kidding. No one calls him that. But Patrick Spielmann. So I actually was a user of things like Outreach.io, Outplay, Woodpecker, and those email sequencing tools. Happened to come across Upticks, gave it a shot back when they were in a really early platform. So still, to be honest, it was still a little bit clunky, but I liked where he was going with it. I liked the system. I liked the flow. And I decided to jump in, become a user. I was so impressed that I started actually, and once they actually developed the system, made it faster, made it a little less clunky, I started building our systems on top of Upticks. And over the last couple of years, man, it has transformed my own practice, my clients' practices. It's a great platform. So I'm not going to dive too deep into it. We could do that here in a few minutes. In fact, if anybody's interested in Upticks, before I get into email deliverability topics, go to upticks.io. I'm telling you, it is a fantastic platform. So Patrick, you've done a really good job with it. We're super impressed with what you've done, especially where it was before. Because admittedly, it's a new platform. It was, I don't want to say clunky, but it was slower and it was still being developed. And now things like a Porsche.
Yeah, we put a lot of work into it. So I appreciate all your support, and you brought us a lot of business and customers, and I appreciate it. And we've been able to really crank up the dial for sure.
We're going to get to look at how something like that works too.
Say that again.
Are we going to get a peek under the hood too? Are we going to see like what that looks like behind the scenes too? Is that going to be part of our conversation? That'd be pretty cool.
I'll leave that up to David. So
we can do that. Well, the one thing I want to do before we get out there, that is I do want to talk about what really matters, I think, to recruiters. And one of the big things we see posted a lot in the Headhunter and Executive Recruiter community group, and Neil's group, the Independent Recruiters and Staffing Professionals group as well. And we get a lot of this is like, how do we get emails delivered? Because those evil ESPs, email service providers, they're doing whatever they can to keep our emails in spam. Now, we don't think it's spam. Doesn't matter what we think, it's not what they think. So I see these questions all the time. How do I get emails delivered to the inbox? Because our email open rates are dropping like a rock. So Patrick, let's start there, because I think that's what most people want to hear about. What are you seeing right now in terms of deliverability, in terms of getting into the inbox? I guess generally, what are you seeing right now? And from there, we can dive into like how recruiters can actually do what they need to do to make sure they're getting into the inbox.
Yeah, I mean, the big update recently, and a lot of people have probably heard about this. Maybe if you haven't, Google just came out with some new guidelines and restrictions that they're implementing, so that we've seen an impact there.
Can you talk about that? Talk about that, because they don't know about it. I just became aware of it about 2 weeks ago. So
So basically, what they're doing is they're more heavily scrutinizing accounts that do high-ish volume email sending. And basically they're banning workspaces. And so, that's kind of long story short. And that's been a little bit more challenging for some people. If you're a lowish or lower volume sender, not as big of a deal. But, one of the things that we preach, and I know David implements, is a decentralized email sending strategy. Excuse me. So a lot of it, with just deliverability, it first starts with strategy.
But Patrick, I'm sorry to cut you off, but aren't they also, my understanding of it was, it's much more complicated than that too, right? They're looking at deliverability. They're looking at all these things that you're talking about now, that you can't just spam people. If it ends up going to spam, you're toast, you're done.
Well, and also the volume When you say volume, like high volume, low volume, like can you put that into like a little bit more specifics so that these folks can,
Yeah, the
put
guidelines they
themselves
came
in-
out with were about 5,000 emails a day or something like that. But if you know Google, like this is the first step into a broader strategy to clean up inboxes and whatnot. And so, and then they have a lot of AI, machine learning algorithms, and all that kind of stuff. So we've seen people have issues with even lower volume sending because they're not following some best practices with formatting emails, using. I mean, there's still people using Mailchimp, I think, out there for sending emails, or Constant Contact for sending cold emails, which is not a good
Really
solution.
bad.
They're great platforms, not meant for cold email, but so Neil, it kind of fluctuates in terms of like the hard figures, hard numbers, and what actually happens, and where you get tripped up, because you could send 100 emails a day and have problems. Another person could send 1,000 emails a day and not have problems. And so a lot of it depends on just the overall strategy, the messaging, who you're emailing, if you're bouncing emails, a whole bunch of stuff. Happy to dive deeper into a lot of these things. But the short answer is it depends. And nobody really knows. Google comes out with some guidelines, but then, there's another set of guidelines behind the scenes that people aren't really really know. It's not public knowledge, essentially. So kind of a shooting target.
Well, I will say this. Excuse me. I know that what you're saying is right. I mean, using those big email platforms like MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Constant Contact is bad. And I see that all the time. And at least the way I've always looked at it is if someone gets an email from one of those and has an unsubscribe link and it's clear that it's from like an opt-in list, I didn't opt in. I'm like, spam, because I hate that. That said, I get cold emails, and without the unsubscription link, and they're not HTML, it looks like there was email from that person, and he's okay with it because like I'm in sales too, I get it. So, but I'm not one. But I hate being signed up for lists I wasn't a part of, and I think a lot of recruiters who think, okay, I'll use Mailchimp, one of the worst things you can do. Worst things you can do. But
torture domain real fast.
But the recruiters are listening to this. Most of them like they're doing small batches. So you're probably, at least maybe on a recruiting campaign, they might be sending out, I don't know, maybe 200 or 300 candidates they have in maybe a recruiting campaign. Then because of multiple emails, maybe they're sending maybe total like 500, 600 over the course of maybe like a week or something like that for that one campaign. And then of course for their business development campaigns, whatever they're putting out daily. So I'd imagine most recruiters on listening to this are probably putting out 300, 400, 500 per day, maybe. So kind of lower levels. So someone like that, just run like at a desk level, what can they do to make sure they're not getting dinged by these evil ESPs?
Yeah, it comes down to kind of the strategy. The big thing is, of course, lookalike domains. So never send an email from your core domain for outreach. And obviously staffing, recruiting, you guys rely on email a ton. And I know that this strategy has become obviously like way more popular in the industry, but for specifically staffing, recruiting, obviously you've got the candidate side and then you've got the client side. I'd recommend splitting your domains based on candidate and client recruiting for sure. So you set up multiple domains and set up multiple inboxes within each of those domains. We like to set up both actually Google and Microsoft. I know there's been a big shift over to Microsoft since Google has
same here,
laid the law down, so to speak, a little bit more. But I'm still a big fan of having both and spreading your send volume across multiple workspaces, multiple email client providers even, and for candidate and clients, keeping those things separate as well. And that's the first step, is just the sending strategy. Then there's of course some more steps after that, but we can kind of.
So would you have so if your domain is like xyzstaffing.com, that's like your main domain.
Yep.
You should have two more at least. You should have like XYZ staff or XYZ-staffing or something like that, like for like your candidate mass outreach, your client mass outreach. So like don't use your primary domain that you use for like your regular everyday email.
Yeah, keep that sacred.
So because I want to make sure you clarify, because I know you said use one for candidate, one for client, and I just want to make sure that it's not like, okay, but also those are two completely separate ones from like your day-to-day domain. Now, what's the reason behind that? Why is that necessary?
I mean, your core domain, when you're sending emails from it, especially cold emails on both candidate and client side, if you get marked as spam, you get too much, you get blacklisted.
Oh, so this is protecting your primary domain from getting blacklisted, because you can always, okay, got it.
Yeah.
You know what?
Also,
I say this to my sales calls, which is just my personality, but also it's the best analogy I can think of. Marketing from your main domain is like having unprotected sex. It's great to the one time it isn't. It's dangerous, right? And I can't think of a better analogy.
Yeah, that's great.
I use MX Toolbox, which is all these great tools that they have. That's the biggest for deliverability. It shows me I get blacklisted all the time, and I don't call. People opt in, right? And so they forget too, and it gets so I got to get off my main domain. To your point, because I see it, we have to. There's lots of things there. So if you want to track your stuff, sign up for a thing. You can see how many blacklists you're on. You should see that. You'd be shocked.
Yep.
Well, actually,
the last thing you want to do is have a
proposal.
That. Oh, go ahead, David.
Well,
Sorry.
Actually, Patrick, I speak to that. So, Neil, good point. So, you've got this opt-in list, right? And I have an opt-in list too, which I don't use. It's not my cold outreach tool. I use Upticks for that. I use an emailer called Berserker Mail, which is like my autoresponder, like Active Campaign, Constant Contact. That's just the one I happen to use. And people sign up and they forget or whatever, or they're a-holes, or they just mark it spam. Now, that said, marking spam off, let's say something like that, is different than marking a spam if I send it directly from my own email, because even though the from email address is the same, the email servers they come from are different. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Am I
yep.
okay?
Yep. Yeah, you're right, for sure. And with your email marketing, you're probably sending more volume. And your spam percentage, like the percentage of your emails that get marked as spam, say you send 100 emails, if you get one marked as spam, well, that's not as bad as but when you're sending cold emails, your spam rate is most likely much higher.
If someone's using their ATS/CRM to send messages to candidates or customers or whatever, which I know a lot of us do, and it makes it look like it's coming from, and the reply to is like your main email address.
Yeah.
Is that the same as using your own domain, or is that technically a different domain? You know what I'm saying? Like if I send messages through my ATS, I happen to use Cats, for example. So like say I send a bunch of messages through there, and if they reply, it comes back. It looks like it's coming from my primary domain, but is it actually, and is that a workaround, or is that the same thing as sending it from my domain? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not 100% positive. If you're sending on behalf of yourself, it's probably coming from your domain reputation. But the ATS likely might be sending from a particular, depending on how you're connecting it with. If it's like DNS setting, record level setting, I would still be cautious, because you could be using their IP addresses, and a lot of other people could be doing cold outreach from those as well, and you could have a hidden deliverability problem that you're not sure of. And I'm a fan of using Google and Microsoft's deliverability infrastructure, although you're also using their IPs. They have the biggest IP whitelisting engine on the planet. So they're constantly getting their domains. They have the most power in the industry. So they're able to go to the blacklists and get their IPs re-whitelisted and all that kind of stuff. So it's better to borrow their sending reputation. Whereas like maybe an ATS system, if they're sending from their platform, they likely don't have that same power and infrastructure. So you could be sending emails and not getting results, and you would never know it, actually. And we can get into like open rate tracking and all this kind of stuff. But if you're sending from your core domain, regardless of the strategy, you're risking your results. And the last thing you want to do is you don't want to have a client opportunity, a proposal into them. You send them an email, and your email doesn't even go into their inbox. It goes in the spam folder. Now you're sitting there like,
well, and you know what the thing is, Patrick? People don't freak out when that happens. If you're sending something like that to your client or a candidate and they say, oh, it's in spam, how many people just go, oh, I can't believe it's in spam? Freak out. Like you're being filtered out there. It's a big deal. It's pervasive in there. And you're probably blacklisted and everything. Don't just chalk it up to, oh, sorry, I don't know what's in spam, right?
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, no one's going to see it. How often do you check your spam folder, right? I mean, so basically never. And, if you do check it, you think that it's just an illegitimate pile of garbage. And that's usually what it is. So that's why the connotation is there. So, you know, you never want to be in the same pond, so to speak, with your domains. You know, and just having everything separate as much as possible. And Chris, one thing to kind of piggyback on what you mentioned of like splitting domains with clients and candidates, I would actually go a step further. I'm a bit of a doomsday prepper when it comes to email and outreach in general. I'd have multiple domains within each of the client and candidate side. So not just one domain each, you have multiple, and now you're spreading your risk across more inboxes, more domains that way as well. So,
but let me ask you a question. This is a commercial for you, I guess. But so I use HubSpot. Same question as Chris. There's not an easy way for me not to send it from my main domain. Does your solution fix that? I mean, if we go to you, you allow multiple domains, and we could just do it from there and not HubSpot. Is that the solution? Because I'm very interested, of course. Yeah, 100%.
So inside of our sequencer, it's you can pick all of your inboxes and all your domains that you want to send from. You just click, and then the system will auto distribute the sends across those inboxes. The problem you'll run into, though, before that is you got to warm these new domains, warm these new inboxes up. It has to have a sending reputation. I kind of call it a credit score for email sending. You got to build that up, and our product helps with that too. There's other products in the market that do that as well.
I will say this though, real quick. Sorry to interrupt, but so Neil, for you, it wouldn't necessarily be the same solution because for like HubSpot, that's an opt-in autoresponder style emailer versus this case we're talking about cold outreach, so they haven't opted in. So like I don't think it'd be the same sort of solution. Would it match up?
But I do cold outreach. I do cold outreach from it too.
Oh, you cold outreach.
So I do both. So the point is, I do have to separate, especially with all the changes. I'm going to change it based on what you're saying. I have to. Now's the time.
Yeah. I didn't know you do cold outreach. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. We do both.
They have their Sales Pro, like you can send like personalized emails from their Sales Pro version, but I've seen a lot of people send cold emails from their Marketing Pro, and that's a big no. It's technically against their terms of service. People still do it, but the problem with that is they're adding a lot of HTML into the emails. So the more HTML and formatting you have in an email, and the more you get marked as spam, because people with cold emails, if they see it's a marketing email, to David's point earlier, they're going to mark it as spam. You're gonna go into spam real fast with the combination of loaded HTML emails and doing.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that I can't use my fancy HTML signature with all my pictures and a dozen links and my banner picture. You're telling me I should.
Are you saying that I shouldn't be using all caps subject lines with exclamation points saying "perfect job opportunity for you"? Is that what you're saying? Actually, it wouldn't be. Could you?
Are you telling me
for the benefit of the majority of us, because we're talking about the deliverability? I think it would be nice to kind of hear the do's and don'ts of what to include in your email too, since we kind of are navigating in that direction. Because I think that.
Am I allowed to include PDFs that are titled "Your Credit Card Info"? Can I do that?
You can. I mean, if you know, maybe it's a Nigerian prince or something like that, and you want to get blacklisted or something. But
David sticks to mostly eggplant emojis with links to who knows what.
All right. Yeah. So Patrick, back to you.
It wasn't me this time, guys.
Get out of control fast.
Bringing it back in. What should or shouldn't be in your email so that it doesn't get in the wrong folder or whatever?
Yeah, the best practice is to basically put nothing in there. In terms of links, images, attachments, nothing. No links, no images, like not even your headshot in your signature. Don't even bold, don't italics, don't use bullets. Nothing. As plain Jane email as you can possibly put together. That's what you should use.
Which is an interesting point too, because I'll talk to a lot of people who are like, they think the greatest thing ever is to send like a video clip with an outreach, right? Like, oh, do this personalized little video message where you whatever, whether to candidates or to clients or whatever. And I don't think it's a bad idea if you have a relationship, but I feel like if you sent a message cold to someone with a link to a video, I mean, I don't know if the odds are they're going to open it or if it's going to get blocked or whatever. Like, it sounds great in theory, but I don't think it plays out in practice. What are your thoughts?
And let me ask a question too, Patrick. Is it also sub to it? Is it psychological too? Because I notice, when I get HTML emails, I know that they're bulk emails, so I dismiss them really quickly. When it doesn't look like that and it looks like a text message, I at least will. It might be personal. Is that
an authenticity factor?
The authenticity side of it is a big piece to it. And to David's point earlier, when you get a marketing email, it's like you opted in. But seeing a personalized email definitely reduces the friction and is a psychological thing.
Now I want to say this, and this is another crude example, but again, I think I can't think of a better one. I think a lot of this stuff is kind of like going to a strip club, in the sense that when you go, when you go, they're not interested in you. The girl knows she's not interested in you, but y'all working under a shared illusion, right? It's a shared illusion. That's the whole thing. So it's an experience. And I think a lot of times, our prospects and candidates, they know we're automating their emails, but if you make it too obvious, it breaks the illusion. Like, for example, I get emails out that'll say, "Hi, David Steffen. I see you're the founder / Fueling Executive Search Firms over at the Digital Headhunter, LLC. And I see that, like, I know you're automating me, but at least make me think you wrote it yourself and just sent it to me." I think a lot of times our clients and candidates, they know this. They're not dumb. I mean, it's been around for years, but I think we all can operate under that shared illusion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like that.
It's a bit of a courtesy for sure. And Chris, on your topic and the links, video prospecting can be fantastic and great. It's also, can be a little bit laborsome, but for a high ticket, and like most staffing recruiting, you guys are high ticket for the most part. So it's great to do. But a better practice would be to send more of an automated, personalized intro line emails, email one. And if you get some signals, although open tracking isn't all that accurate, it's better than nothing. Then if you have some relative confidence that you have landed in their inbox, then you can follow up and get a little bit more risky with what you include. I still wouldn't do attachments because, there's virus scanning, all that kind of stuff. But embedding, maybe a personalized video at that point could be a good strategy for sure. But
that's a good point, though, because it's as much like when you're using these elements, like at what point is the right point to introduce them, right? Like to get the most effectiveness out of them, as opposed to just putting them in your first message. So I think that's helpful information, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to ask another question here, because I want to make sure, because we're gonna stop here at 1:45. I want to make sure before we get too further down, I want to make sure we cover not just deliverability, but also getting replies, because you're not just an email delivery expert, but you're kind of the guy when it comes to how to write compelling cold outreach messages. So let's say your average recruiter trying to figure out how do I create like an email sequence or email message that's going to get responses from decision makers, hiring managers, who I want to work with.
Yeah.
What do they do? How do they do that?
Yeah. So the obviously deliverability is one thing, and we solved that with the software and some of the strategies. So, but then what we found is that more of people's crappy emails started landing in the inbox. So it's like, okay, we fixed deliverability. We're in their inbox for the most part. Now my crappy message is just being seen more. And so it's not enough to just land in the inbox. You got to optimize for replies. And there's a couple different ways, number of strategies. But one of the best ways in the staffing side for client attraction that we've seen and we've found, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, and a lot of the listeners probably are too, are MPC campaigns, most placeable candidates. So
buddy.
Yeah. So let's get dirty. Yeah. So you find a candidate you want to shop first, who's really qualified. Then you go and find companies who are hiring for jobs that they'd be a great fit for to move, to put into that role. And then what I recommend is personalizing then the email. And we release some AI features to write personalized emails at scale. So it's kind of multifaceted. You're shopping a specific candidate. You're finding companies hiring for jobs that candidate would be a great fit for. You reach out to them. You personalize the first sentence, and you can use AI for this. We've made it pretty easy. And then you use them as a lead magnet, basically to generate a reply. And you don't tell them who the candidate is, of course. You just say, hey, got perfect candidate, 10 plus years experience, so on and so forth. Mind if I send you their information over? Just get them to reply back to you, transact. Don't try to book a meeting, anything like that. You still don't share the details of who it is, of course. You can de-identify. But that's like probably in terms of client attraction, the gnarliest campaign that you can do in the staffing recruiting space.
Agreed. And in fact, and you know why too. And I tell this people all the time to recruiters, like send out 100 recruiting emails, recruit on a specific position, and send out 100 biz development emails selling your service. And every recruiter will tell you, oh yeah, I get way more response than a recruiting email. Why? Because you're selling something like, here's a position I'm recruiting for, versus on the biz dev side, you're saying, hey, we find the best candidates, just like every other recruiter in the known universe that has emailed you in the last week says as well. Like it's like a nebulous thing versus a high level candidate. You're saying you find the best people. And by the way, boop, here's proof. Bam.
Yep.
I mean, right there, it's you're right. When you mentioned NPC, I'm like, man, you're not a recruiter, but you're talking my language, Patrick.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, you know, we've had a lot of staffing recruiting agencies in the platform. I've gotten intimately familiar with that, and then plus your content and whatnot. So, but that's the best way. I mean, you're actually doing legwork. You can work closer with that client. So it takes extra work to do, but the effectiveness is way crazier. And as long as they are a good fit, like your speed to closing a deal and getting somebody placed is actually much faster. But you just have to cultivate those candidate relationships with specific outreach. You don't have to get as nerdy with the cold outreach on the candidate side, because a lot of people are open to new opportunities. And so like we've got one recruiter who's a client, gets like 16-20% reply rates on the candidate side. And I can't remember the interested rates for them, but like it's fairly easy to get the candidate, build up a little relationship with them, and then you shop. So
hey,
well,
Patrick, what do you think of this method? One question, because I've seen people do this all the time. It drives me nuts now, and I thought it was brilliant in the beginning. And are there other tips like this? Like when people will send out a cold outreach where they'll type in the subject RE, like it's a reply, and they want you to pretend like you've been reading it. I don't like it because it's a trick.
I fucking hate that. I get those emails all the time where that below there's a pretend email that they're following up on that you never got. I get like 15 of those a day. I freaking hate them. I think they're so obnoxious.
Don't trick anybody. Never trick anybody. And like that's in terms of subject lines, the best practice is keep your subject lines under 5 words. Actually, 2 or 3 words works best. So we've ran stats and analytics on this. More than 5 words, or after 4 words, your open rates fall off a cliff drastically. And so you want to keep your subject lines 2 or 3 words, and you don't want to trick them. But we usually use a problem-based subject line, something that's relevant to that person. To give an example, like if I'm reaching out to recruiters and want them to try Upticks, I would maybe use a subject line. Actually, I think we use this one, like client issue. Client issue. That's it. So the word client is going to resonate with them because obviously you guys have clients, right? So it's all client driven.
Patrick, you say subject line. I'm sorry. What about the personalized section, right, where everyone knows you have the subject, then you have the area that they can read in the preview section? How important is that section?
It's almost just as important. So, I mean, the first thing is land in the inbox. Second thing is to get them to consider opening it. And so the subject line and then the preview text is the best way to do that. And I just saw a comment from Dylan. One of the best ways to do that is to make that preview text not look like it's an automated email. And so that's where, if you do personalized outreach, it's going to come together a little bit more. And now they're going to be enticed to read it. And then once they've opened it, then you want to get them to consider reading the whole thing. And when you lead with personalization, it reduces the friction. And it's like, okay, like there's certain ways you can do these personalizations, but they're more enticed to read it because they've seen you put a little more effort into it.
Should that be 5 words also? Sorry, David.
Yeah.
We do 2 3 sentences on the personalizations.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, two. One is probably fine depending on how you do it, but some of ours are 3 sentences long. We take a certain angle at it, but But
Yeah,
as long as the email is good, like people will keep reading.
I would say this. So I want to throw a couple comments in here that we're going to get wrapping up here pretty soon. But I would say for a subject line, if any of you guys really, really want to get a high open rate on your subject lines, use this one. But use with care. Subject line: resignation.
Ooh, that's gnarly.
Now you'll get some angry replies, but I guarantee you'll get a lot of opens with that one. I've had a couple clients use it. It's actually usually better when in the sales space, because these sales guys that they reach out to, like the sales managers, they kind of get the game, versus if you're reaching out to engineering managers, they probably won't appreciate that. But resignation is a really good one. Another good one I like to use was catchy subject line. I emailed recruiters. So I email recruiters with a catchy subject line. They kind of get the joke, because it's a joke, right? That's the joke. But one thing I will say here about that personalization, it's really helped me along. I started personalizing my own outreach. Actually, is based on your advice, Patrick. It definitely helped my open rates and my reply rates, even if they weren't interested. The fact that I did something positive about them, I complimented them on it. There is a level of reciprocation there, where they feel like, even if it's a no, I'd rather get a no than an ignore.
Yeah,
right.
totally.
And it works great.
Actually, you'd rather get an ignore than take me off your list. And I call those silent buyers. So personalizing emails not just reduces your negative reply rates and increases your positive and your interesteds, it actually keeps your pool of silent buyers and silent prospects available, because they've appreciated it a little more. Now, you live to fight another day with your outreach. And if you're building proper nurturing and outreach, I call it channel stacking, stacking phone on top, and then long-term lead looping, I call it, for long-term nurturing and follow-up. Now you've gotten less of the negative replies, take me off your list, and you live to fight another day, and you might have another opportunity. So
excellent. Well, Patrick, we're gonna have to get wrapping up here just a minute. I really didn't mean to cut you off there, but we've got a hard stop back quarter till, and you got stuff to do. We do as well, and of course the fine viewers watching this, they got to go out and bang on some deals. But with that said, if they are interested in checking out the platform, I highly recommend it. I recommend it to all of my clients. Go to upticks.io. And Patrick isn't just a pretty looking fella, but he actually really is an expert in this kind of stuff. So go check out the platform. He also has some coaching programs as well, kind of embedded into it. Really fantastic. Can't speak enough of it. So,
and let me add this one more commercial for Patrick. There are so many companies now that have emerged that do this at an enterprise level, and companies are investing fortunes in it because it's that important. So I'm excited. I'm going to take a look at this. David loves it and use it. I like to be in the same platform as David because, we do market certain things together. And I think I'm probably going to be one of your clients. So I'm really excited to go through it and go under the hood.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
I haven't had a chance to do that. So yeah,
excellent.
Sure. And everyone has to use something like this. So if you haven't done anyone, check out Upticks. Check it out.
Check it out.
And there are others, but you got to do one of them.
And with that said, we'll wrap things up. If anybody wants to join our 3-day sales boot camp starting April 10th, go to thedigitalheadhunter.com/bootcamp. If you're interested in back office support for contract staff augmentation, go to backofficenow.com. And lastly, if you want to get a roadmap on how to use a virtual assistant, VA, for your business, go to chriswessel.com. And with that being said, folks, I think it is time for us to wrap. Patrick, thank you. Neil,
thanks
thank
so
you.
much. Appreciate it, David.
Thank you. And everybody else, again, give us a like, give us a love, give us a share, comment replay for watch replay, comment live down below for watching live. And for all you folks, we'll see you on the flip. Peace out.